Kneecap, Nisha O'Carolan, we will start a riot outside the courts. He did then put out what he described as a disclaimer later in his performance. What do you think should happen now?
I think the BBC need to explain themselves. I think the BBC, first of all, need to tell the licence fee payers how much money is being spent on Glastonbury, how much money is being paid to the organisers of the Glastonbury Festival for the rights to broadcast this, how much money is being spent to host this and promote it almost to the exclusion of anything else on BBC iPlayer at the moment. The BBC are...
It's not to the exclusion of anything else in the iPlayer. If you look up the iPlayer, Sammy, there is a wealth of variety of different programming. It's not to the exclusion.
Promoting it almost to the exclusion of everything else on iPlayer. If you go onto iPlayer this morning, Stephen, you will see that across the top it's Glastonbury this, Glastonbury that, and Glastonbury the other thing. And there's a huge playlist of material that they've gathered from that. So it would be wonderful to know how much the BBC are paying Glastonbury in order to broadcast the like of this. And it's entirely predictable that Kneecap were going to go out and say something along these lines. They've already come out with outrageous statements. They've already tried to push the boundaries as far as they possibly can. From the inception of this group, they have shown utter contempt and gone out to provoke innocent people who have suffered at the hands of the IRA, even by their very name. And these are all points that were entirely predictable. And when the BBC go and broadcast them, regardless of that, of course they're going to say, well, how far can we take this? How far can we go? So, as a publicly funded broadcaster, the BBC has profound questions to answer about the role that they have played in this.
Well, actually, Sammy, what happened was, it wasn't regardless of anything. The BBC did not broadcast the performance live in terms of Kneecap. It did make it available on the iPlayer later, an edited version. The edited version does include the statement from Nisha O'Carolan, one of the Kneecap members. We will start a riot outside the courts. It also includes the part where he said he didn't want anyone to start a riot. So
and if you provide people who make sort of calls like that you provide them with a publicly funded platform to make those comments, even if you do edit it, and you take parts of that performance and you say, isn't this wonderful part of this wonderful music and this festival that we should all be celebrating, and that we should all be grateful that the BBC licence fee payer is paying for. If you take that and you amplify those voices, you are complicit in what they are saying. And the BBC need to answer that. I mean, we saw on Saturday even with Bob Villan and what he came out with in the slot, which the BBC did broadcast.
Death to the IDF is what Bobby Villan said.
Yeah, and I mean, it's no surprise. It should come as no surprise to anybody that a performer that is put on the BBC, given the discussions that have taken place, and they're going to say, well, how do I make a name for myself here? How can I go further? What can I say that is going to push this boat out further? So the BBC have profound questions to answer, and frankly, there should be a consideration of whether people can retain their jobs after they've provided these people with this sort of platform.
Well, the Daily Mail this morning on their front page are calling for senior BBC executives to be charged with crimes. There's no indication that the police are investigating anything like it. Does death to the IDF not suggest, Sammy, someone trying to be... It's an institution, it's not a person, it's not... You can't have incitement to violence against an institution like the IDF, which is fighting a war, or can you? Is there an attempt here to censor criticism of the IDF?
You're asking me to comment on something that probably is a wee bit legal matter, and I'm not the person to be quizzed on that because of the limits of my knowledge. But, I mean, there's no doubt that in that expression, you are calling for people to die because people serve in the IDF.
Well, there's a war, and the IDF want people to die as well, don't they?
Well, they want terrorists to die. They're not setting
and people are dying from IDF bombs and bullets who are not terrorists.
Absolutely,
aren't they?
that unfortunately is happening.
And children in Palestine are being starved to death, aren't they? Or dying through starvation
well,
is the way I should
hold
put it.
on a
Sorry,
minute.
aren't they?
I don't think that's right, and I'll tell you why I don't think it's right. I think the IDF have retained and have allowed humanitarian aid to go into Gaza, and as far as I am aware, one of the major problems with the humanitarian aid once it gets into Gaza is that it is being captured by Hamas and by the people who Kneecap were actually championing. In fact, we had a case actually quite recently in Gaza where the forces of Hamas were actually kneecapping their own citizens. So, I mean, I don't think that you can say that there is a parallel between the actions of the IDF and an illegal terrorist organisation.
Here's Tracy in North.